Hi there, I'm Roger Johnson. It's January 18th, 2018. I'm in Hutchinson, Kansas at the Kansas Cosmosphere and Space Center. This is my third visit, and you'll notice today I'm wearing my I'm not cool, but I've got a cool jacket. I've got patches all over it, the same way that NASA has mission patches for every one of their missions. I come up with a logo for each big trip that I do, well, even small trips. But the biggest trip I've ever done was my 50 States, 50 Days trip. That one I actually made a patch for, sewed it on my jacket. The rest of the patches on this jacket represent major travel interests. I've got a Minnesota Twins logo. Not only am I from Minnesota, not only am I a twin, but I'm also trying to visit every Major League Baseball stadium. I've got my presidential seal. I visit presidential historic sites, birthplaces, homes, libraries, all that good stuff. Then I've got my NASA patch. Over the course of, I don't even know how many years now, I've been visiting NASA spacecraft, manned spacecraft that are on display in museums around the country. I visited them all. I came back here to the Cosmosphere to see a couple more again. It's kind of a neat little museum. It's not very big. It is in the middle of nowhere in Kansas, so it's not like the Johnson Space Center in Houston or the Kennedy Space Center or the Smithsonian Air and Space Museum on the National Mall. But like those other museums, it does have manned spacecraft that have flown in space for both the Mercury, Gemini, and Apollo eras. So that's really cool, especially for such a small museum. The museum goes from the very early days of rocketry, German V2 and V1 rockets on display, the early days of the Russian Sputniks, and various early Russian rockets and spacecraft, to the American efforts. They've got the Mercury Atlas 1 capsule. This was the first man-rated capsule to be launched aboard and launched on top of an Atlas rocket. This is a Redstone here behind me. The Atlas rocket, they weren't sure whether or not they wanted to put a guy on top of it, and it was a good thing they didn't have a guy on the top of that first one, because it blew up, disintegrated on ascent, and fortunately it wasn't a major problem. I figured out what was wrong. Several flights later, Enos, the chimpanzee, they've got the couch, the carrier that was inside the Mercury space capsule that he flew in. That was the mission right before John Glenn's first American orbital mission. The Cosmosphere is also home to the Liberty Bell 7, Gus Grissom's Mercury capsule. After splashdown, the hatch blew and water came into the capsule. They were able to save Grissom, but they lost the spacecraft. Decades later, they were able to fish it out of the sea, and the Cosmosphere restored it, and they put it on display. It's not here today. It's on tour. I think it's in Indiana. It's going around to tour several places. I've been here before. I got to see it here once, and I saw it once when it was on tour at another time down in Houston. So they also have a Gemini spacecraft. They have the Gemini 10 space capsule. This was commanded by John Young, who just recently passed away, and Michael Collins, who was the command module pilot for the Apollo 11 mission. The Apollo capsule they have, this is kind of a gem. This is the Apollo 13 command module Odyssey. And it's the weirdest thing happened to me as I was driving up the road here coming to the Cosmosphere. I'm not kidding you, a black cat walked in front of my car as I drove in, and then when I went in and I paid for my ticket, they said, "Do you have AAA or anything?" And I said, "Yeah, I've got AAA." I got a discount, but with the discount, the price ended up being $13 and some whatever cents. It wasn't 13 cents, but it was like, okay, this is getting freaky. Despite all that, it has been a fantastic day here at the Cosmosphere and Space Center in Hutchinson, Kansas. While I was here, I picked up some souvenirs. I collect patches. I take pictures of myself next to the various spacecraft that I've been to. They're on my website, welcometoamerica.us. And then so far I only have my Mercury capsules framed, but I've got the patch and then the photo next to a photo of me standing next to the spacecraft. I don't have all the patches that I need, so I picked up a few here while I was here, including, where is it? Including the Gemini 10. A lot of the Gemini 10 patches that you can buy in the store, they don't have the X extending off the edges like that. That's the way that the original mission patch was, so I was happy I found that. What I was not happy with, however, which I knew this before, all of my Apollo patches, that's Apollo 7 there, are a little bit bigger like this. I'm going to find this here. But the Apollo program patch, there it is. The Apollo program patches, I cannot find anywhere for the life of me one that is the same size as a lot of these Apollo patches. It's smaller. I don't know why that is. You can find big Gemini and Mercury and Space Shuttle and across the board, but you cannot find the Apollo mission patch in this same size as these Apollo patches. So when I stick it in my frame, I want them to all look the same. Maybe it's the black cat's fault. I don't know. Anyway, that's my pet peeve of the day. So from Hutchinson, Kansas, I'm Roger Johnson.